this presentation, you will learn about culture and personality. Culture and personality are also seen as psychological anthropology and an important field in anthropology. This field of study emerged in the 1930s in the United States. It is an interdisciplinary field of study. Methods. Culture and personality studies apply the methods of psychology to the field of anthropology, including in-depth interviews, role-playing, elaborate biographies, studies of family roles, and dream interpretation. Ethnography, participant observation, long span of fieldwork were also some of the methods of scholars. Scholars. The culture personality study was predominantly dominated by students of two scholars, namely Franz Boas and Kroeber. The pioneers of this school were Ruth Benedict, Margaret Mead, Cora Dubois, Edward Safir. There are other scholars like Sigmund Freud who have also carried out work merging anthropological concepts and psychology, for example, totem and taboo. Two important scholars that must be mentioned are Margaret Mead and Ruth Benedict, who tested Freud in their own field and disapproved it. Ruth Benedict, Patterns of Culture. One of her important work was Patterns of Culture. In the book, she argues that every culture selects among an arc of traits, choosing from a universal span pieces that at once fit together and create a distinct character. The Apollonian Pueblo Indian, the Paranoiac, Dubo Islander, and the megalomaniac Quathicul. Her own society constituted the fourth character, subject of a stern critique for rampant greed and overweening ego and intolerance of the individual who lacks those traits. The last chapters of Patterns offer a brilliant analysis of the relativity of abnormality and the production of deviance through the imposition of rigid demands on conformity. The Chrysanthemum and the Sword. The book is a model of national character studies, beautifully written and persuasive. For Benedict, Japan exemplified a high synergy society in which institutions fit together coherently and personality coincides with culture. Benedict indicates the methods by which integrity comes about, the details of behavior that reinforce the pattern, and the methods of child rearing that guarantee successful integration of individuals into social institutions. She maintains the crucial tenet of her anthropology, bringing contrasting cultures into illuminating relation, in this case Japan and the US. The contrast was explanatory. One culture was driven by shame, the other by guilt. A book written to help the US understand its enemy established a comparative approach in the discipline premise on the diversity of emotional drives across cultures. Benedict and other proponents of culture and personality studies directed the attention of anthropologists to the symbolic meanings and emotional significance of cultural features that had hitherto been considered primarily through functional analysis. At the same time, they led psychologists to recognize the existence of an inevitable cultural component in all processes of perception, motivation, and learning. Margaret Mead. Mead pioneered fieldwork on topics such as childhood, adolescence, and gender, and was a founding figure in culture and personality studies. Mead was well known for her studies on non-literate people of Oceania, on psychology, culture, cultural conditioning of sexual behavior, natural character, cultural change. She not only studied but frequently gave lectures on a range of serious topics like women's rights, child rearing, sexuality, morality, nuclear proliferation, race relations, drug abuse, population control, environmental population, and world hunger. Coming of age in Samoa, growing up in New Guinea, and sex and temperament in three primitive societies are some of the important works of Mead. Coming of Age in Samoa. This book is one of the important works of Margaret Mead. Mead conducted her study among a small group of Samoans in a village of 600 people on the island of Tau, Samoa. She got to know, lived with, observed, and interviewed 68 young women between the ages of 9 and 20 and concluded that the passage from childhood to adulthood or adolescence in Samoa was a smooth transition, not marked by the emotional or psychological distress, anxiety, or confusion seen in the United States. Portraying a society characterized by a lack of deep feelings and by a lack of conflict, neurosis, and difficult situations, the book offered Samoa as a clear example supporting the thesis that teenagers are psychologically healthier if they engage in sexual activities with multiple partners before marriage. The book was much more than a report of research conducted. It included an insightful introduction, a popularized opening chapter on A Day in Samoa, and two popularized concluding chapters drawing lessons from the Samoan culture that Mead thought could be applied to improve the adolescent experience in the US. After her death, Mead's account of Samoa was challenged by Derek Freeman's book, Margaret Mead and Samoa, The Making and Unmaking of an Anthropological Myth, stating that the account of Mead was only one version of Samoa. Thus, Culture and Personality School had made an important contribution to the field of anthropology. Thank you for watching the presentation. Do like, subscribe, share, and leave your comments about this presentation or any other topics you would like to learn more about.